Hey, everybody. How you guys doing out there? What's up? This is Solar Gray, the Cinematic Sorcerer, saying what's going on, guys? Sorry about the technical difficulties. As I was putting everything together, I noticed that YouTube had did something a little weird, a little different, and all that jazz, but I'm glad that you guys are here. What is going on? How you doing? And welcome to the dark side of the room. Now, today's episode, if you guys are here from various other places, hopefully the music is good. Hey Vixen, how you doing? Hopefully the music is good. Hopefully the music is at a good volume and all that stuff. I actually don't have a way of cataloging that from here in the Wizard's Tower. So, there's a lot of other things I got to talk to you guys about today, and we are going to be doing a great many things and changes and all that. But first, business. For those of you guys that are here, hopefully I haven't blown it with you guys, like, not showing up or leaving or whatever, but for those of you guys that are here and you want to do the thing where you're interacting with me or with the other people out there and all that jazz, I am going to say feel free to have a little talk with all the people over there in NP City. What's going on, NP City? We got the Vixen in there. Thank you. It sounds good. All right, we are good with all that. Again, sorry about being late today. YouTube did some stuff. Yeah, we got into some stuff with YouTube in and of itself. There is a lot of stuff that we are talking about today. But if you guys want to join us in the conversation, I don't just want you to think that you can. I want you to pull up your keyboard and type in backinthedeck@gmail.com. That's BACKINTHEDECK@gmail.com. How you guys doing out there? You can also hit us up on the social medias, at the Twitter, just look for @BidP or @BackinTheDeck. Hit us up on the Instagram, which a couple of you guys might have been able to come into Instagram and all that other stuff. We got all that stuff going. So without further ado, let us get back to the regular show. So so many things I gotta talk to you guys about today. Well, let's see here. We are doing some stuff with the website. If you guys like it, cool. If you guys, so it's not just like, oh, come buy my t-shirt, or come buy a coffee mug or something like that. No. We're doing like gaming related stuff, and I appreciate all that stuff. There will be t-shirts and all that stuff as soon as I hear back from these producers of t-shirts and random stuff like that, because I'm really trying to keep everything relatively in-house for what we're doing right now, because we still need more subscribers and all that stuff, and we really don't have that many, much to my chagrin. With our subscribers, wrong-ree, I'm so wrong-ree. But with that, like I said, just come on down to our Patreon page, set up a membership level and all that stuff. And I ain't gonna lie, a lot of people you really help us out and all that stuff. Brass tacks, producing these videos, A, costs money, B, costs time. So when Patreon donators can put up a bunch of money, when there's enough Patreon donators, that means we don't have to get day jobs stuck inside, say, cargo containers that have been roasting in the sun, lifting bags of boxes of air fresheners for 8 or 9, 10 hours a day, so that we can come back, do these videos, and do them tiredly, not to mention cameras, lights, microphones, sending stuff out to editors, hiring sound people. That all costs money, and we're doing what we can to keep all that stuff open. Not to mention we pay a lot of money for decent internet so that our stream doesn't get interrupted. So that's where all that stuff goes. That's where that money goes. I'm all about transparency. Speaking of transparency today, there's a lot of stuff I want to talk to you guys about today. Haha, I just killed the music. Didn't I do that cool? Huh? Isn't that cool? Isn't that fun? But yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that we're talking about today. And one of the things I just want to open up with the sad part because last week, I know this is old news with the 24-hour news cycle, but just bear with me. Last week we lost a comedy legend. We lost John Witherspoon. John Witherspoon, black actor, black comedian. I legendary is the only word that we have for him. You guys might know him as Pops from Friday. And most people would know him most commonly as Granddad from the Boondocks. He died last week, shortly before, shortly before Halloween. Yeah, he passed on October 29th, 2019, and this was January 27th, 1942. So I mean, he had a good one. He had a good run on that one. Seriously, father, writer, comedian, active actor for a long time. And ironically, I came across something just today that I wanted to share with you guys. He actually had a YouTube channel. And now a little bit of Bid P history. When I was first putting this channel together, I was talking to the Stick Man, and he was like, you're a decent cook. You should do a YouTube internet cooking show. And I'm like, yeah, right. I'll do 137 recipes of ramen for poor people out there, and I'll call it Taste My Hate. Yeah, that'll be the thing. Yeah, that's it. Angry me going, look, you don't just have to eat ramen out of the packet. That's a whole thing. And but it really never came to fruition because I'm just now 7-8 years later getting the materials to actually film a cooking show in a kitchen. Because that takes a lot of different cameras, a lot of mics, and each episode costs a lot because every time anybody does something on a cooking show, they have to cook at least 2 versions of stuff, like the one that you make on camera and the one that's pre-made and all that stuff. Sometimes it's 5, 6, or 7, depending on how tired you are when you start and how many mistakes you make. So that's a thing. But it turns out John Witherspoon has a YouTube channel, and the day before he passed, he uploaded a video on cooking for poor people, which was one of his major shows. So I'm gonna just show you guys a little bit of an excerpt from that. So you guys get it, and that of course is going to lead into our into one of our main topics for today. So check it out. John Witherspoon and his cooking show. Again, it's called Cooking for Poor People. Let's see if I can get this back up.
This is John Witherspoon, and I'm cooking for poor people. Because when you're hungry, everything tastes good. Now, I know I haven't been here for a while, but I've been busy.
Now, of course, you're probably asking the question, like, why doesn't he have any clothes on? And the answer is, shut up. just shut up, all right? Just shut your mouth.
Busy doing other things. We're about to do the Boondocks, and we're going to do another Friday. So I've been around working on the road, because I've been very, very busy and got a big schedule this year. Okay, this is going to be a special occasion. I'm cooking poor man's gumbo. Louisiana poor man's gumbo. It ain't the good stuff for the rich people. Shrimp and lobster.
Brown liquid. Good. But yeah, so that's just a little bit of that. You guys can check it out. Just look up John Witherspoon's YouTube channel, and you guys can look at his recipes. And the thing about his recipes is that, as I said, I found this morning, but I grew up cooking like that, and I ain't gonna lie, it's good. It is some good stuff. So that's a thing. Check that out. But I wanted to talk today about black elders. Okay, now um, it's an interesting thing because I grew up around a bunch of old black people. And when I say old, I mean born between the years of 1896 and 1941. There was a lot about. All right, sorry. The chat, you guys are wrong. You guys are just wrong. Just you guys are terrible. Like, oh, I'm thinking about health code violations. You're terrible. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong, and I love you. But anyway, um, yeah, I grew up around a bunch of old black people, and it's interesting because there is a lot of stuff when it comes to dealing with elders. Like, I don't know how many of y'all out there got grandparents or great aunts and great uncles and stuff like that. But I will tell you, there are lots of signs at generation gaps. Okay, there is a major generation gap. Like young people, and I love you guys. I really do. I love you guys. I love what you do. I love what you stand for. And one of my favorite things about observing youth, and when I say youth, I mean anybody under 35, is the amount of passion they have for stuff. Just whole bunch of no, you just so much passion. Like no, you got Steven Universe is a great cartoon. No, that's really what they're at. They're like angry drunk people all the time, and I love it. But when you get around elders, you can really tell the generation gap because the speech patterns are so different and the priorities are different. Now, there is a biochemical reason for this. After a person hits 35, we start thinking, what do we have to leave this world? And the stuff that's important isn't as important as it might have been a long time ago, just because we've had different life experiences. You dig? We've gone through different things. When I was young, when I was like a teenager in my 20s or 30s, or in my teens and 20s, it was just a whole bunch of stuff that I thought was just important. I was passionate. I was like, oh, we gotta get this stuff, and we have to have freedom of expression, and you guys don't understand. I think in the Cat Stevens songs, Father and Son, it was, if they were right, I'd agree, but it's them they know, not me. And I'm like, yeah, nobody understand. You don't understand how important this is, blah, blah, blah. And but one of the things I love about listening to old people is they say so many things that it takes 20, 30 years to understand, but they think they sound deep. It is so amazing. Like I'm sitting up. Now I cook, and I cook with my mom, and I used to cook with my other family members. And my mom don't do this as much, but my aunts and uncles, when you're poor and you're black, you got to do a whole lot of things. And this comes out when you look at successful black people today, in the media, when they're talking about their art. But we'd be in the kitchen, and when you got people that are doing something that they may not feel great about it, boy, do we talk ourselves into things. You sit up, you're in the kitchen, and you're like, woo, this is gonna taste good. Yeah, look at this. Woo, look at that. Sing a little song, do a little dance, like, yeah, gonna add the garlic, add the garlic, now a little pepper, yeah, ha, little pepper, ha, ha. Well, and my personal favorite of the rural people, woo, look at all that. And it's different because when you're young, you get the woo, woo. But yeah, as you get older, it turns more into a woo, oh boy. Woo, that's going to be good. Yeah, look at all that. Woo. Yeah, I'm gonna add some garlic. Woo, look at that. And we make songs and dances. Oh, I'm talking about elders. Making songs and dancers out of everything, because when you're young, and when you're fiscally disenfranchised, yeah, didn't think I was gonna get deep. There's a lot of things you have to deal with because you don't have anything better. So we're cooking or we're putting on clothes like, my clothes are old, but they ain't dirty. Go iron them creases in, And we tend to have to talk ourselves in to appreciating what we have instead of focusing so much on what we don't have that we drive ourselves nuts. Okay, we just drive ourselves crazy. And this is a big thing because elders are really good at this, especially disenfranchised elders. This is going out to you Southerners too. Y'all know if you in Louisiana, you in Kentucky, you in Tennessee, whole time you're sitting up going, no, you best gonna eat that, man. That possum soup, boy. No, oh, that's a possum soup. What you don't know about that possum soup? You don't know about that possum. Look at that, huh? Yeah, and you gotta psych yourself out. You really gotta psych yourself out, and you gotta psych out the kids, because kids, how they don't lie. They only lie when they think they're in trouble. They're like, I ain't eating that. That's just brown liquid. What is that? It's like, ooh, that looks nasty. I don't want to eat that. Look at all that. And it's just that's a real thing. And it's like, boy, you don't know what you're talking about. You're gonna eat this food. You're gonna eat the food. The food tastes good. Look at this food. Yeah. Look at this food. Or look at them shoes. Payless. That's what we're gonna do. And after a while, we start to appreciate those things that we have. Now, this becomes difficult, especially if you're a gamer, because fortunately, we live in a very, very rich culture. And by rich, I mean monetarily, we're not doing as bad as a lot of places. But rich, well off, all those things are relative to your surroundings. In one of the earlier episodes of this show, I talked about my first experience going into a game store. Now, the city of Burbank, at the time, in the 80s, the median income was $50,000 a year. That was a lot of money back then. So the idea of me not having 12, 13 bucks to buy a book, this was just crazy. I must be some sort of Dickensian street urchin. Excuse me, sir, may I have a character sheet? It tends to taste like happy when I have to eat it and it's cold. That's pretty much what they were looking at me like. And one of the things on that is today, we live in a time where we have so many luxury items at such a cheap cost. Gaming books, if you buy them from the stores, they're like $40, $50 sometimes. That's a lot, but you can always find people to play with online that might have a PDF that they're willing to sell you for like $4 or $5. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's accessible, but that is a very new thing. Now, there are some of you younger viewers out there that don't remember 9/11, so let alone a world before internet. But there was a time where these things were luxury items. So when you start hearing people on the right going, well, you got your cell phone, or you got your smartphones and your iPhone and your Starbucks and blah, blah, blah. Don't talk to me about being poor. It's like, dude, don't go there, because my smartphone, this one right here, this smartphone right here, this is an LG. This was a gift. Okay, this was a gift from an old friend of mine, and I didn't pay a dime for it, and my phone bill is $60 a month. I mean, that's just what I got. I didn't pay like $500, $600, $700. But even if I did, for you iPhone owners out there, that's a one-time purchase. You pay it one time. It's not like you're buying an iPhone a month. Okay. And with gaming, you end up buying, how many players handbooks for Dungeons and Dragons are you actually going to buy as a player? Chances are maybe one, possibly one. Because hey, we all know that there are gamers out there that don't buy their own books. If you're a GM, you might buy two, but outside of that, it's there. So when you're talking to black elders, or elders from a disenfranchised place, because most black elders come from the rural South. I mean, this is a thing. They come from places like Oklahoma, Missouri, Tennessee, Nolens, Baton Rouge, Georgia. Woo-hoo, Georgia, and in the days that they were growing up, poverty was real. And I mean realer than it is now. Today, we're concerned about losing our place to live and having to sleep on the street, and we're scared of crazy homeless people. And they had all that too, but they also had woods, hillbillies, Klansmen. We're talking bad stuff. In the movie Get On Up, there was a scene with a 6-year-old James Brown and his mom, and he was just hurting because he was having hunger pains, and she had no food to feed him. But it was either that or get chased down by Klansmen. So she told him that that's God's love, telling him that he's alive. And after a generation of that, those speech patterns and those thought patterns become commonplace. You know, so why is this food good? Because it's here. All right. And that really is a huge lesson in gratitude passed down from elders. It's like, you know what, boy? I know this stuff tastes like terrible. I know that looks like throw up, but it's what we got. And since we got it, we got to be happy, because I can remember a time we didn't have that. You know, back, and, you know, you guys know it as when I was your age stories. But when your elders talk about when they were your age, you might want to listen, because things are all right. They're okay. They're okay today. You know, socially, we're terrible. I'm not gonna, but I don't want to talk about politics. But what I will say is that we got $1 sandwiches at stores, and people lose like $1 in change every month. You know, so I mean, we can eat, especially if you're in the big city. But you know, shelter ain't nearly as plentiful as it was, say, before 9/11. But I live in California. The Wizard's Tower is in California. You know why? Because our seasons are fire, wind, and pool. That's it. Those are all of our seasons. So I don't have to deal with snow or heavy rain. You know, I don't have to deal with weather like you guys out there in Detroit or anywhere in Michigan or Wisconsin or New England. You know, I don't have to deal with stuff like that, because I was born in California and I've managed to make it so that I don't have to leave yet. But shouts out to those guys that do have weather. Y'all are pretty BA. And you know what the real concern about being homeless is like. So when you're talking about elders, specifically black elders, they might be saying stuff that you don't quite understand. But if you listen, you'll know what they mean. You know, I had to ask myself I had to ask somebody a question. What does it mean to be dumber than a bag of hammers? And again, the old Southern black dude was like, at your best, you'll never be able to use more than 2 hammers. You only got 2 hands. The hell you need a bag of hammers for? I'm like, well, this hammer's for that. This hammer's for this. He's like, nah, boy, just use the damn hammer. You know, you're hammering a nail. You got 1 hand. You got 1 nail. You only need 1 hammer. That's all. Don't need a whole damn bag of hammers. Stupid. You know. So yeah, you end up, you know, dumber bag of hammers, or you know, woo, that stuff tastes mighty fine. And of course, my personal favorite is a soup sandwich. If y'all have ever done military service, you've heard a bunch of old black elder sayings, because drill sergeants essentially have stacks of notes from everything their grandparents told them. But so black elders, I'm speaking mainly of black elders because I had them. I didn't spend enough time around a lot of Latino elders, because I never learned to speak Spanish that awkwardly. But, or should I say that, well, I spoke Spanish awkwardly. I'm like, si senora? Si senora? Okay, yeah, you have a very good day, ma'am. Okay, I'm gonna go now. And I never had a what's the term? Chancla tossed at my head, which means I was either very well behaved or I just wasn't a part of the family yet. I'm not quite sure. So yeah. But I grew up with a lot of black elders, and I spent a lot of time wondering what they meant. But as I got older, I definitely started to understand, you know. They're sitting up like, you know what? I ain't got all the best food. I ain't got the top-notch ingredients. I ain't no Gordon Ramsay. I ain't no Emeril Lagasse. I don't get that bam, bam, bam. You know what? But I'm happy to be cooking, and I'm happy to be cooking for the people I love. And I'm like, oh, Well, that makes a lot of sense, actually. you know, and John Witherspoon's entire comedic career was based around that. You get Granddad from the Boondocks coming out of the store. They're coming out of Payless, and he just singing songs about new shoes, new shoes, new shoes, woo! Because back in his day, it was an event to get new shoes. I tell you, there wasn't no shoes around for miles and miles. The only shoes I had was passed down to me from my older brother when he died in the plantation. And so we're gonna miss his comedy, or we're gonna miss him pumping out new stuff because he's this is the 21st century, so the back catalogs of the work of celebrities, really awesome. So the other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about today was gaming environments. Now, as you guys know, one of my favorite games, let me pull up a picture of this stuff. One of my favorite games to play is called HeroClix, and it's a tabletop miniatures game. It's a tabletop miniatures game where you get little miniatures of superheroes or monsters. Ooh, yeah, little monster. I'm the void. Blah. And you end up making them fight on a board. So it's just like taking your action figures going, hey, Mr. Donut Man, who's trying to kill you? Except it's a little more rules based and stuff like that. And this game has been around for like 17 years. God, I'm old. And but it's a real thing. But yeah, here we are at the WizKids site, and you got stuff like that with this site is so fun. Oh, there we go. Yeah, you get like little Batman thing. I think I have that one actually. And yeah, look at all that. Woohoo! Yeah, preview now. Yeah, let's take a look at the clicks thing. And with the HeroClix stuff, you end up doing all that. Now, they have changed. There we go. Yeah, take a look. You got Sentinel Cyclops. Yeah, that thing looks awesome. Now, this is where the game happens, and it may as well be in Greek. But essentially, you have your statistics, just like you have for a role-playing character, any other miniatures game thing. And it's interesting because the company, WizKids, have just published new tournament rules. And one of the rules for tournaments is now it is mandatory to let your opponent look at your statistics card during game. Now, that was just good sportsmanship from where I stand, but I didn't know that the rule was I didn't know that it wasn't mandatory. It was just, hey, can I see what your figure can do before I decide my next rule? Yeah, here you go. Sure, there you go. And because that's just how I play games. But there are environments, and this is what we're going to be talking about today. One of the things that I notice is there's a lot of talk, especially in tabletop miniatures games and collectible card games, about tournament play and friendly play. And I want to talk about that because, not growing up in the suburbs, I was influenced by the media that I consumed. And the media that I consumed was primarily PBS. So I'm very Sesame Street, very Mr. Rogers, kind of altruistic type thing. And one of the things that I noticed when it comes to that is when I play a game, I'm happy to play a game. I'm just happy to play. I was very much the kid that wasn't allowed to come in and play a game. You see what I mean? It was, hey guys, can I play? Oh no, our teams are filled. Or, hey guys, you guys are going to go do that. Can I come with? Oh no, we already got enough people and blah, 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 blah. But when I finally got to start playing games, I was just happy to play. I didn't care if I won, because I wasn't at that level. I learn games. I learn the rules to the game, but I don't necessarily, what's the term I'm looking for? I don't necessarily win, but then I don't play to win. fun historical fact, Vince Lombardi, well, the Mandela effect says that Vince Lombardi said winning isn't everything, it is the only thing. That is incorrect. Vince Lombardi's actual quote was, winning isn't everything, wanting to win is the only. I come from a standpoint of time and place, if you will. I used to run tournaments back when I was working at a game store. It's no longer there now. But when it comes to playing in tournaments, I've noticed that there are two types of tabletop RPG players, or tabletop players of competitive games. Yeah, this was really apparent in Warhammer for a long time. I played War Machine, and then it became apparent in War Machine. And this was, in order for me to win, I have to make sure that you can't play, which means I am going to memorize every figure that's possible. In Magic the Gathering, I'm going to memorize every card. I'm going to focus on the meta. I am going to know what your army does before you know what your army does, and I'm going to shut down your play before you have a chance. It's essentially somebody says, meet me outside, and then you just shoot them in the face. In certain tournament situations, I can see where that is useful, I suppose you can say. Where I tend to come into problems with this is these players spend so much time in that particular environment, they don't know when to turn it off. And this is what I mean. This is the gaming environment. There's a game out there that I love, as you guys said. I said HeroClix. You know, HeroClix is a great game. And one of the tactics that used to be used is, again, the veteran players, the people that are really big on the tournament circuit, would memorize the entire dial, because as the game goes on, you turn a dial and that says what your new superpowers and your new statistics are. So they would know every single thing that every character on your team could do. Okay, so they'd be like, oh, his next click, he's going to have these powers that are going to stop me, so I'm going to have to hit him past that click, or I'm going to have to incapacitate him, which is cool at a certain level. Okay, the thing was, these players in tournament would play that way with people that joined the tournament to learn how to play the game, and I mean to learn the rules of the game. The tournament environments in a lot of these places tend to push out casual play and scare away a lot of new players. Now, some of you guys, I'm not sure if all of you guys are gamers, but I'm sure that there are things out there that you guys have wanted to get into that the people that have already been into it have really closed the door. They've been your gatekeepers. I abhor that behavior. And let me get into why. I've talked to you guys a lot about my past and my history, but I don't just abhor that behavior because it pushes out the fat kid or it pushes out the poor kid or any of that. I almost lost my train of thought. I don't just hate these things because of that reason. I've seen where it goes. When you have the tournament community playing super duper hard against everyone that comes in, especially the new player. There used to be a really messed up saying when I was growing up called smear the queer. And the definition of queer is unusual or unknown. So when the new person would come in, everybody would gang up on them and just beat them down, just to say, well, if he can't take that, then he shouldn't be around us. But I've seen many games over the course of my life literally go in, like, stop being literally stopped being produced because all that was left was a tiny tournament community and they couldn't sell enough product to stay open. So the balance comes where the producers of this, the producers of these games have to balance between how do I keep my tournament players interested and how do I keep new blood flowing in? How can I make this fun for new players without the tournament players screwing it up? The obvious surface answer, and we're going to get to that later because I said we're going to be talking about surface thoughts, is, well, there should be places where new players can just play casually, sort of like a safe school type environment. And there used to be, but one of the problems that came down is tournament players go into that environment and start practicing for the next tournament on these players that were brand new. It's something I'm starting to call the Ben Shapiro effect. I know I don't talk politics, but this dude used to make me mad until 4 days ago when I realized that he goes in, like, he is a Harvard graduate who's written a couple of books and has the bankroll of billionaires behind him, so he will get into arguments with sophomore level college students just to make them look stupid. That is literally the same as a brown belt in a martial arts going into a school in a town that they don't live in during the child's classes and beating up on all the yellow belts. And that's one of the things that a lot of tournament players do, and they will say that they are doing casual gaming. They are playing casual. They're not really opening up the full can. And it's like, yeah, but your opponent isn't having fun. You shut down everything their team can do, which means they're not learning what their figures can do, which means they're going to stop buying these figures and this game is going to fall underneath. And with HeroClix in particular, this has happened once before. It happened back in 2008, which is why WizKids had to be bought out by NECA and they had to change their headquarters all the way across the country. Now, Final D is saying, seems like old school gaming can be as toxic as video games these days. Actually, yes. And it's been like that for longer than video games have been a thing. This started back on tabletop wargaming back in the 70s. But the gatekeeping, the toxicity, be it tabletop games, video games, sports, those are all just platforms for that toxic behavior. And this is what we're talking about today. Because the toxic behavior is just not cool. Okay? We're Deckers. I started up this website for us and to let people out there know that that is not the standard way to play any game. And we're here. We are out here and we're saying, dude, you want to learn how to play? Play. Now, learning games is one of my Patreon tiers. I'm not going to lie about that. Again, total transparency. And I believe at I'm taking a look here. Terrain, blocking, plus all previous rewards. Patron only live stream. Yeah, where are we at? Oh, yeah, that's right. Doop. At the $20 level, I literally teach you how to play a game. You know, a game of your choice, which means I go out, I spend that $20 on the game that you want me, that you want to learn. I'll buy it, I'll learn it, I'll figure out, you know, how to play it and all that stuff, and I'll teach it to you. That's what I'll do. So that given the time I may or may not have, there'll definitely be somebody that'll just play with you just because you want to play. That's how we roll here, because all of these things, games in particular, they bank on the future. Okay? Let me give you an example. You get these toxic tournament players that play with each other. Let's say it's a group of 4 guys, right? And they play that way and it's all that stuff. And they spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on miniatures and time and all that stuff. It's time well spent. Okay? But then one of them has a kid. Another one gets married. 2 more of them move away. Now these people have hundreds and hundreds of dollars in toys, but the way that they play is toxic, so no one at the local gaming store really wants to play with them because they're not fun. They're out in the cold. They're completely out in the cold with a whole bunch of stuff that they now have to sell on eBay and get better at the future. Now, I'm not trying to make a future like that. I'm really not. Honestly, eliminating toxicity is beneficial for everyone. Okay? Games are fun to play. They really are. They're really fun to play. And there's a lot of lessons, life lessons, intellectual lessons that can be learned from playing games. We live in a time right now where we're even trying to gamify most huge concepts. So, you know, we learn more, we hold on to more, the more fun that we have with engagement. So, how does this tie into gaming environments? Well, I come from a school, as I said, of time and place. Okay, it's good for you to know. 3, 2, 1. I'm back. Yeah. Oh, sorry about that. A little more technical difficulty. Like I said, YouTube is being weird today. As I was saying, you know, you're playing a game and that kind of stuff is happening. The solution, switch servers. You know, switch servers and find a server that isn't that toxic. So the whole idea of start up that casual play thing. Well, it's simple. I know when I'm at a game store and I get tournament players that come up saying, well, I would have done it this way. I would have done it this way. I do got to look at them, and I always start polite saying, that's cool. This is a new player and we are playing just for fun. They like playing fluff. So please, as much as you're probably right about your tactic, your advice was unsolicited. But thank you for coming by. And if they want to push it, then I get urban on them. Okay? And the reason that this is important is because I'm the heavy that tries to keep the bad guys out. And when it comes to trying to create an environment, you're going to need one. I'm sorry to say. I hate to say it, but in every single movement, every single group of people that get together for any reason, there are going to be people that come in that either want to take it over or want to take it down. This is just the world we live in right now. So somebody's got to be the heavy. And that doesn't mean they have to bring a crowbar and hit him in the mouth. Okay, I'm not advocating for violence. But there has to be somebody that's willing to talk to the store manager or the store owner or something. And if a gaming store is not the place that you can meet up and do all that stuff, I've been known to run D&D games out of Denny's. You know, there are other options. You can go to a Starbucks. You can go to a public park if you've got the weather for it. Community centers with gyms and stuff, they always have stuff. And who knows, you might end up starting a whole, let's say you're playing Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, you might end up being able to start an Adventurers League because you get other people who don't know what you're doing that want to know what you're doing, and you can tell them. You know, this is how we start communities, and this is how we change the overall meta. Now, one of my personal weaknesses is every person that I try and teach to play for fun and to show good sportsmanship. Because here's the facts. Tabletop gaming is complicated. Okay, it is. It's these games are not as simple as tic-tac-toe. But the thing is, the games that we grew up playing, like Monopoly, that's complicated too. And what I run into are people that believe that they have to win the first time they play the game. If you sit down with a super competitive player and try and teach them Risk, see what happens. You know, let alone HeroClix, War Machine, Warhammer 40k, Dead Zone, Dungeons and Dragons, and Nominee, Nobilis, Victorian, any kind of stuff. And they'll be like, I don't understand this. This isn't fun. Table flip. Rawr! You know, and that's cool. Best of luck to them. And there are some people that will sit down and try and break the game. Now, there are tons of videos on YouTube right now talking about spotlight players, which are the different types of gamers that want all the attention. Y'all let me know if you want me to talk about that stuff, okay? But the meta point that I'm getting at is the environments that you're in are always determined by the people who are there. And you have a choice in the environments that you're in. It may not always be a good choice, okay? And that choice is, are you going to be the type of people that are already there? Are you going to be the type of person that you want to be? Or are you going to leave? You know, those are the reasonable choices. The unreasonable ones, you know, arson and things like that, and that's not cool. So that is not something to do. Although the frustration does make you want to throw tables sometimes, but you don't do it. You show that you're bigger than that you have more tools, more facilities at your access. But yeah, so these days, as much as I love tournament games, or games that have tournaments like Magic, like HeroClix, like War Machine, I don't go to tournament environments anymore. And I tend not to play at stores that have tournaments because I was talking to you guys about HeroClix a little earlier. There is no rule in the game that says you cannot mix genres or comic companies. So you can have members of the Avengers team up with members of the Justice League and fight against each other or fight with each other against a bigger threat, which is cool. It's one of the best parts about the game. But what happens is the tournament meta doesn't play with the feeling of the theme of the game. It doesn't play with the setting. It plays with the numbers. And when it all becomes winning, it's like, well, I'm gonna take the Avengers. Like, there was a meta at a time where you could have the Avengers jet was picked up by you would have the Avengers jet, one or two flashes, Domino from Deadpool, and a bunch of stuff like that. And that was to make sure that you could win by eliminating your opponent's ability to play. Now, when it comes to playing like that at my table, I'm like, you can make any team that you want with any comic franchises you want, as long as you come up with a backstory as to why they're together. You know, just another layer of interaction. So if you want the Ninja Turtles playing with Deadpool, tell me how they met. Tell me how they got together. A lot of people got mad at that until they started doing it, and they're like, it's actually a little more fun doing it this way. I'm like, well, I'm having more fun playing against your team, although I can't attack, I can't run, I can't disengage, and I can't block any defenses, but at least you have a backstory as to why they got together. You see what I mean? So yeah, that's a really big thing. That right there, all really big thing. Now, the next thing that I want to talk to you guys about today, okay, and this is the final thing, our surface thoughts, okay? Surface thoughts are big. I've been doing a lot of studying on a lot of things, because I'm not happy about the way the world works. But what I'm noticing is a lot of people go off on surface thoughts. Now, I talk about this stuff in a sense. Well, thanks, Final D. Oh, yeah, we got Final D saying, actually, that sounds freaking awesome. But I have to ask to watch your language. I try and keep this kid friendly. I allowed the comment this time, but in the future, please, pull back on the profanity. Bad enough that I smoke on air. A lot of people do stuff on surface thoughts, and the surface thought is what I like to tell to my significant other, chapter titles, okay? Chapter titles are, if you open a book, you'll see, in this chapter, and then she buys shoes. And then the rest of the chapter tells the context of how that thing would go. Now, there's a book out right now that, fortunately, I'm past that level of self-help to look at, but it's called 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. Don't buy this book. Do not buy this book. I'm not even going to glorify that thing with a picture, okay? But the 12 rules themselves are really good as surface thoughts. stand up straight, make your bed, you know, make your bed, take care of yourself, have good hygiene, try and respect others, things like that. It's just within those chapters, it gets wacky, you know. But in gaming parlances, and this is for Magic the Gathering players out there, read the whole card. Surface thoughts, number one, it's not great with communication. Okay? And I say this because a lot of people, we live in an age right now where everybody is trying to do the next thing. One of my favorite Key and Peele sketches has something to do with the chain wax. Just feel free to after you're finished watching this, feel free to, you know, pull up the YouTube clip, Key and Peele chain wax. And it comes down to everybody's trying to coin a new phrase, be the new thing. And so in the age that we live in, we communicate in a lot of abbreviations, a lot of idioms. Like, I catch myself doing it when I'm talking to my mom. She didn't know what FOMO was because she doesn't spend all day on the internet. And I had to tell her fear of missing out, because I do like acronyms, although I don't like rhymes. And surface thoughts are exactly the same. Okay? When you say, well, yeah, I'm running this whole joint, does that mean you're the boss? Are you the executive officer? Are you the secretary that controls what information the boss sees? There's a lot of ways that things can be interpreted nowadays, but we tend to get stuck on surface thoughts. And what this leads to, especially all over here on the internet, is being triggered and angry and mad and not having conversations in good faith. Okay, this is terrible at the gaming table. It's terrible at the boardroom table. It's just terrible overall. Now, surface thoughts, I'm not going to be as woo-woo as saying take a surface thought in a way that pleases you most, because that is delusional. Okay, it's really delusional. But what happens with surface thoughts, that language starts to get twisted. Okay, I talk to a lot of people about politics, which is why I don't talk to you guys about politics, because I don't want this to be a politically leftist channel. You know, I don't have the energy to court that much hate. But when I talk to people about politics, I hear a lot of things when it comes to programs that help people, being called names like communist or socialist and all that stuff. And I'm like, you're talking to me like I already agree with you on how you feel about that subject. I don't know what's wrong with a lot of these things. I don't know what's wrong with helping people. I don't know what's wrong with making sure that no one is homeless, especially when we have, I'm making up these numbers, but the point is the same. We have 20,000 homeless people in Los Angeles, but we have 45,000 empty houses. You know, I don't understand what's Okay. And we're back. Sorry about that. I might put commercials in when I'm re-editing this for the Patreon. I don't know. Not real commercials, but, you know, commercials. Anyway, as I was saying, when it comes to surface thoughts and stuff, I know it's easy to be in an echo chamber. I know it's easy to build your life around a bunch of people that already think like you, already know what you're talking about. I mean, the suburbs were built on that. But right now we live in a world where everyone has the ability to throw words at everyone else. Not communicate, just throw words. And I'm really trying to push more communications. From the gaming table to the regular life, if the person that you are talking to doesn't know what you're talking about, then all you're doing is, you know, verbal massage. You're just working out your own kinks, you know. But when you're talking to people, you have to make sure that they understand what you mean so that you can have a real conversation. If a real conversation is what you want. Many times I find myself asking people, do you want to have a conversation about this? Are you just venting? Or are you coming to me for counsel when you really only want assurance? I just need to know what conversation we're in right now. um, because people are hurt right now. This is why I keep talking about gaming. And because gaming is one of the things that makes me feel better because I have a good time with other people. It's a socializing thing. And there are accomplishments in learning, and I like learning stuff. I like learning people, I like learning games. So when it comes to surface thoughts, that first thought, that thing that's common sense, what I'm challenging you deckers out there to do is to ask yourself why it makes sense and would this apply to someone who doesn't have my history? That's the question that I challenge you to ask yourself, and you'd be surprised at how much this helps you in the life that you might want to lead. But with that, I'm gonna say, yeah, that sounded as good a thing as any to clock out on. So I want to thank you guys for showing up. Super thanks to NP City. Thank you guys out there. Special thanks to Shannon Boom Lay. She's on the $20 Patreon tier because when you hit that $20 tier, I thank you in every episode. And thank you guys that have been in and out. I apologize about the stability of the stream. I'm gonna work that stuff out and do all this YouTube upgrading and all that jazz probably today. But if you guys are just now showing up and want to join us for all this stuff, I'm sorry it's a little bit too late, but feel free to drop me an email and ask me any questions about this stuff at backinthedeck@gmail.com. It's backinthedeck@gmail.com. Thank you for being on YouTube, guys. Thank you for joining me for this live show. Please subscribe. Please have your friends subscribe. We need to bust 1,000 subscriptions so that I can actually open up the rest of the YouTube stuff, like better transmission, being able to live cast on mobile devices so I don't have to take the entire studio with me and all that stuff. There's a lot of stuff that goes down to it. And of course, sharing all that stuff. So thank you very much on that. Follow us on Twitter. Drop me a line. Ask me a question. It's cool. I'm with that. And if you want to talk to us on a more regular basis or talk with each other, then instead of changing addresses and all that stuff, head on over to Deckers on the Book on that wretched hive of scum and villainy known as Facebook. If you missed this show or you want to listen to it at your leisure or any of the other shows, just head on over to soundcloud.com/BID_P and you'll be able to get the audio from most of our streams over the past 7 years, and you can download those and keep them forever and pass them out to your friends and make copies. It's not pirating because I give you guys permission to do that on the air. Share the stuff, have them come on down and all that jazz. And of course, hit the like button on your way out. Thank you guys who hit the like button. I got 2 likes this week. That's kind of cool. And of course, join us on Instagram and all that jazz. Again, throwing the Patreon up one more time just so I can be like, yeah, come on down to the Patreon, do all that stuff, sign up. $1 a month is cool. You guys get polls and all that stuff. And yeah, and the higher up the tiers you go, the more you get from me and the more time I spend with you. So I want to thank my patrons from this last month. Y'all know who you are. And again, come on by, drop me a line, all that jazz. And remember, if anybody tells you that you can't like what you like because of the circumstances of your birth, be it race, religion, creed, gender identity, sexual orientation, your disabilities, or your budget, you just tell them that we said to take those cards and put them back in the deck. This is Solar Gray, the Cinematic Sorcerer, saying thank you guys for joining me on the dark side of the room.